In this video, I want to introduce the new email archiving feature that's been added in SecurityGateway version 6. If you recall, in the previous video we looked at the message logs and how you could actually drill down into specific messages and look at the email content. That's still a very useful way of getting access to specific messages. So for example, here I can select an email and look at the details. We can see the transcript. We can actually see the message that was sent, and if it's in HTML we can view those images in the message. However, this information is only temporary. So if we actually look at the setup information for the database retention, we'll see that the records that are kept in the logs by default are only kept for 30 days. Now, it's true you can increase that to a certain amount, but typically you would only have that maybe retaining login information for maybe a few months at most. What if you want to actually keep messages long term and give users access to those messages? Now that's where the email archiving feature comes in. So up in the setup here we've got archiving. If we look at the configuration, you see that you can enable the option here, and you can choose whether it applies globally. And this is a key thing within SecurityGateway. A lot of the features can be defined for all domains, because SecurityGateway may well be filtering for multiple domains, or you can define it specifically on a domain that it's running. Now in this example we're just running the one domain, so I'm going to leave it on global to apply it easily there. So we've enabled the option. This second option here to accept journal reports, that's only really applicable when you're using Office 365 or an Exchange platform and you're only using SecurityGateway to archive mail. In our example, we're delivering all email arrives in SecurityGateway, gets pre-filtered and security checked, and then delivered onto Office 365. So because the mail has already gone through SecurityGateway, it can take an archive copy at that point. It doesn't need to be delivered and archived from the 365 servers. So we don't need to turn that option on here. Now at the bottom, where you manage your archive stores, SecurityGateway will create a new archive store automatically, and the default options are to create a new store every 5 million messages. Now you can change that if you feel that's a large number of messages and you'd rather have smaller stores. You can also define to create a store automatically on a monthly, quarterly or yearly basis. Or finally, if you prefer, you can define store sizes as a maximum and let it create a new one when it reaches that specific size. You can also define the exact path for the data that's stored within the archive stores, and that doesn't have to be on the same drives. That can be on a totally separate set of drives that the server's running on, and indeed it can be a separate location for different domains if you need to. So once you've set these options up, or you've left them on the defaults, all new email that arrives through SecurityGateway, a copy will be taken and put into the archive. Now if we look at our actual archive stores, at the moment I've only got the one store, and it's quite a small store. There's only been 194 messages that have passed through it, so it's very small in size, but clearly over time that will get bigger and bigger, and that's something that you would definitely want to back up separately to your normal SecurityGateway backups. As an admin user, which I'm currently logged in with now, I can search the store across all of the data for all users. So for example, if I'm looking for a message and I know the recipient, I may well just do a quick search for an email address or even part of an email address. And that will return all the quick results that I can then drill down in and find specific messages. Or I can be more advanced here and define, something like a specific sender, recipient, or a body of the message. So let's say I know something's coming from a specific sender. I can choose a date range. Let's say in the last 7 days, with or without attachments, or I can even define, a size of that message. So I do a search there. So there's all the results that I've made. If I then select one of these messages, I can either view the message to be clear that it's the one I want. I can choose to open the images. So let's assume this is the message I'm interested in. So now I can view it in more detail, like the headers of the message. I'll just show the simple version. Or I can download it as an EML file. So that's off the screen unfortunately, but that would have downloaded an EML file of the message that would open directly in Outlook. If I just close the preview window, if I prefer to, say the user's missing a message, they've contacted the administrator who's then found the message and wants to send it to them, then you can just click on Restore to Mailbox and that will redeliver it to the end user. Now, the message archiving feature is not just used by administrators. Users can also log into SecurityGateway. So if I just log out here and log back in as a user account, which I've got one saved here, you get a much more basic view of SecurityGateway as a user, and all the data is obviously only relative to your information. So here I can go into search the message archive, and I can do exactly the same thing. I know I was missing a message. I'll use the same example. We know it's got something to do with Aldi. We'll do sender recipient. Not quite sure when it arrives, so I'll just do a basic search, and there we go with the same messages of showing up. I can view them and I can deliver them in exactly the same way. So it means that you can give the job of finding messages within the archive to users and just give them a web URL that they connect to search and deliver messages from that archive. The last set of features we'll look at are the compliance features. Here you can set up things like data retention. So to meet compliance regulations, typically companies have to guarantee that messages are kept in an archive for a set amount of time, and also are automatically removed from an archive after a set amount of time. So the defaults here you can enable are for simply 90 days. It's the minimum age of a message before it can be deleted, and also the maximum age is effectively 365 days. Now obviously you can change those to meet your industry compliance regulation, but that's a very useful and simple feature. Should you ever need to put a temporary legal hold on an archive, so you've got a potential inquest going on and you need to very quickly just make sure that nothing is changed in the archive, then there's an option here to just enable legal hold, and that will overwrite effectively the data retention settings whilst that feature is enabled. At the end of that legal hold, if you disable it, then the next time round, that end of that day, it will then catch up and prune the archive appropriately. And then finally, if we look at the forget contact, this is really to meet GDPR requirements. So if you get contacted with a request to remove all emails that you hold from a specific contact or email address, you can perform a search on here and if needed, delete all the messages that are relevant to that contact. When that happens, you can send a confirmation to yourself or indeed the contact or a specific email address to confirm that action's been taken. So hopefully that's given you a brief overview of the new archiving feature. Be sure to check out the rest of our videos where we cover more features within SecurityGateway.